was sitting down to write the outline for today's video, I started out with an empty document, just kind of staring at it for a solid sort of half an hour, trying to figure out if I really had any interesting questions to ask myself this week. And I was drawing a blank until I remembered Williams hadn't had a double point scoring finish since their cork in a bottle moment way back in Monaco. Kia ora, my name's Kimmy, I talk F1 in the world's second worst accent, and these are my 3 burning questions for the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix. When you look at Williams' run this year, the bad luck, the reliability issues, and the strategic errors that have cost them big points, you'd be forgiven for bemoaning the fact that they could have had a much more comfortable buffer back to 6th in the Constructors' Championship by now than the 47 points that currently separate them from Sauber. Heck, with Red Bull's one-car strategy, they might even be bothering them for 4th. And while they do seem pretty confident that they've finally fixed Alex Albon's power unit issues, and he's already shown us that he can use it to his full advantage with his brilliant qualifying and difficult default drive in Belgium, the fact that we didn't see any of those final Q3 laps on the broadcast is still irritating me, by the way, I really have to ask the question, have they exorcised whatever it is that's causing issue after issue on the other side of the garage? Because here's the thing. Sure, Carlos Sainz has made his own mistakes this season, but the sheer run of bad luck and operational and strategic errors that he's had kind of feels like it needs to be studied. From getting damage and dropping out of the points thanks to the back end of an unstable Ferrari in Silverstone, to his brakes catching on fire in Austria, to traffic issues and qualifying that have ended with him starting the race out of position on tracks where solid points were possible, various misjudgments with their qualifying run plans, questionable strategy. It's really starting to feel like Williams is destined to go through the whole season where only one side of the garage can have a good weekend, and because Alex has been so consistently excellent when his car's been working anyway, the unwanted bad luck just often ends up with his teammate. And it kind of feels like the cherry on top was Belgium, with a slow pit stop and being one of the cars to elect for a pit lane start to resolve some anomalies in what they were seeing in the data, and using the opportunity to change to a wet setup only for the race to be delayed for so long that it was a hindrance rather than a help. Nothing seemed to go right for Carlos Sainz, even if he did ultimately agree with the rain delay. And on paper, Hungary shouldn't be a good track for Williams, but even if they both finish outside of the points, I just really hope they manage to have a consistently not bad run for both drivers this weekend, rather than continuing this trend of one car or the other suffering through the horrors. Although it would be just typical for both of them to string together a solid weekend only to finish 11th and 12th, wouldn't it? And of course, Williams' chance at consistent point scoring finishes may now be even lower thanks to a definite change for the positive, and that is Yuki Tsunoda. Sure, Yuki didn't score points in Belgium, but that wasn't on him, and up until the team's pit stop era where they didn't call him in until it was too late, he was well on track to score his first point since Imola, and his best finishing position since the sprint in China way back when he was in the Racing Bulls. But with Laurent Mekies already making the decision to give him the updates, show a bit of faith in him, and see what he can do, will this weekend be the point in the year where Red Bull starts to consistently finish with both cars in the points and leave one less spot for the midfield? People are already commenting on how much more relaxed and open Yuki was in Belgium. He's said himself how he appreciates Mickey's open displays of support and how good it feels. And in a sport where confidence is such an important component in performance, it just really feels like this could be the start of an upswing. As long as Helmut Marko is one of the people calling the shots and Max Verstappen is still in the other car, I don't think it's likely that Red Bull will ever be a proper two-car team. But this habit of paying lip service to their support of the second driver while basically just letting them get completely lost like they did with Checo, Pierre and Alex, well, it might finally be fading into the background. We might look at Red Bull and still think of it as a meat grinder, but how much of that was down to Christian Horner's leadership style, and how much can Laurent Mekies change their approach to driver management? We might know by the end of the season, we might not, but 20 years is a heck of a long time for one guy to be running an organisation, and culture is a really hard thing to change. I just hope that Laurent Mekies can at least make a dent. Finally, a big question mark that's been hanging over one particular garage for a few races now is that of Mercedes' struggles in the last few rounds and whether or not this meeting they've had to try and sort out what's gone wrong will bear any fruit. Earlier this season, George Russell really looked like an outlier pick for the title if Merc had managed to push their development in the right direction. Unfortunately, the opposite's kind of happened and those regular podium finishes have really dried up. That, combined with Kimi Antonelli's miserable run of it in both performance and reliability since Canada, has kind of seen them lose second place in the Constructors' Championship. And they kind of appear to be losing even further momentum against Ferrari with each weekend. And they've been trading places since Spain, but the fact that a couple of races before then Mercedes was 47 points ahead and Russell had been on the podium in 5 out of 7 rounds, it really does tell the tale of a season of, well, 2 quarters, I suppose, seeing as we're only just past the halfway mark. And kind of tangentially, I'm also interested to see if we get an announcement about a contract renewal for George sometime during the weekend, or if that's going to continue to be a question by Monday. I don't know, if the ink's already dry, it just sort of makes sense to quiet that noise down before a race weekend starts, rather than let George continue to be hounded by the media. Like, this isn't like last year where everyone was waiting for Carlos Sainz to either or get off the pot for 6 months. I don't see why you'd not get it over and done with, because this is just a really uncomfortable position to put your driver in if there's no need for him to be in that position. Unless, of course, Mercedes is still dithering, which I have a lot of opinions about, particularly considering George is managed by Mercedes and is effectively beholden to their whims and can't really negotiate confidently with other teams. Like, I don't know, that's just really icky. I mean, as much as George doesn't really have an obvious better option right now, it feels like even if he did, he's got very little negotiating power. But that's kind of a different conversation, and maybe I should have retitle this video to 3 questions plus a bonus rumination on the ethics of drivers being managed by teams they work for. I don't know. Let's see if this even makes it in the edit. So that's it. That's my 3 burning questions for the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix, plus a rumination on ethics, I suppose. What are your questions for this weekend's race? Are you all about the title fight? And if so, are you backing Oscar or Lando? Maybe you think Franco Colapinto can finally get some points on the board. Or are you wondering if Ferrari's managed to tweak that new suspension in a way that might get results for both drivers? Jump down into the comments and have a little chat about it. Thanks so much for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a like, particularly if you want to see more stuff from me in the future. And as always, a huge thanks to my patrons. If you'd like your name in the thanks list, or if you just like supporting creators in that way, then the link is in the description as well as right here on the screen. Ka kite. I hope to see you here next time.